Hi folks, how is it going? I had some problems and I solved them all off cam. I will try to tell you about the problem in details and what I did exactly. Unluckily I did it off cam, so I will just show you from the history of the commands of my system. The system that I had the problem on is Slackware. It's based on UEFI. The bootloader was initially elilo. It's the default one installed on the system whenever you have a UEFI based system on Slackware. I updated the system. That included updating the kernel with its packages, which are mostly kernel huge, kernel generic, kernel modules, and kernel firmware or Linux firmware. It's a package. It's a package that contains some of the proprietary drivers. You definitely it's not time to discuss about the role of every package here. I will just keep up with telling about the issues I had and how I solved them. I forgot to run, after updating the system, I forgot to run a script that generates the initram disk and adds a new boot entry, and I forgot also to run elilo config or something. There is a command that generates elilo menu. I forgot to do that, and the system has become unable to mount my boot partition. I have it as a separate partition, the boot directory, unlike some people who choose to have everything on one partition. I keep my boot partition separately, so that caused my system to become unable to mount the boot partition. I have become unable to generate the initram disk, and I have become unable to run the command of elilo to add the new kernel with the new version. It's a new kernel and the version is the newest for its type. And then I had to chroot. I used the Slackware live media, Slackware 15. The commands were like this. There is a script I told you about. I guess it's something similar to one of these, mostly this one. This is the script, but of course you should change this one with your kernel version. This script, you run it every time you update the kernel packages. It's split, the kernel is split into packages on Slackware. I forgot to run this command, and there is a command similar to elilo but for UEFI based systems, which is this one, sudo elilo config, and the packages that are updated to update the kernel are like this. Salix, this is from Salix OS, which is a derivative of Slackware and keeps most of the characteristics of Slackware and has some improvement on some of the stuff there. So at the beginning I wasn't able to run those commands. Even when I tried to chroot, nothing happened. But the system got worse. Actually, there is something that happened and it was worse, which has become no kernel modules, and the system was not able to boot. I didn't even get a rescue shell, and I wasn't able to use my keyboard nor my mouse, and I wasn't able to boot at all. The error was no kernel modules found, and it is about having to do, it's about needing to do the same things, which is generating the initram disk and running elilo config for UEFI and elilo for BIOS or legacy systems. Alright, so I did that, chrooted many times using Gentoo live media, and instead the thing that caused me to use Gentoo live media is, instead of running all these commands, I simply run arch chroot /mnt and it will simply chroot for me. the system was, as I said to you, unusable, doesn't boot. So what I did is changing from elilo, replacing elilo with grub after churooting, of course. The comments were this comment. I believe it removes elilo, all the files in /boot. I didn't find any files within /boot/EFI. You will have /boot/EFI if you are using UEFI based system, and I don't know exactly the files for lilo. They may be the same. You may need to run the command like this, and it's gonna remove the files. If we check our boot partition, we will find that it doesn't have any elilo files so far, except these ones that may be about the theme that appears at the boot process at the beginning when you see the elilo page or screen. Okay, so the next thing I have done is running this command, not this one but this one. This is the next command I ran. Okay, in case you want to replace elilo and install grub bootloader, I have done a video about doing so during the installation, but this video is in case you faced the same error or some other errors that may be related to the bootloader and you needed to replace elilo or lilo in case the files are the same but the name is different. So the next command I ran was this one, and then the command afterwards should be it's not appearing. The command should be doesn't show off, so it should be grub mkconfig -o /boot /grub/grub.cfg. Alright, these two commands, since you so this was the last command, and then I should tell you that these two commands for not the two commands, I'm sorry, this command in particular and the command of generating the initram disk for Slackware, you should run them every time you update the kernel on your Slackware system. It's in case you replaced your lilo or elilo with grub. Some people will not like what some people may not like replacing lilo or elilo with grub. I'm sorry if you don't like it. It's just in case it's needed. Okay, so that was how I resolved the problems that I was facing, how I did exactly. The commands I ran them, the grub install and this one, and removing elilo files, I ran them in chroot environment. You may need to be careful when playing with these or messing with these files, since your system may become harder to boot up. You need to know what you're doing, otherwise you may need to be careful, especially when you update the kernel. For Salix OS, they don't allow you to update the kernel unless you run a specific command to do it. It's blacklisted. The commands or the packages for updating the kernel are blacklisted, and you don't update it unless you want to. Okay, so that's all from me. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, share and comment, and see you in another video.